Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first mixology class here at the Met Club, the Metropolitan Club in San Francisco. This is our first try, first rendezvous. I'm going to be doing two cocktails, trying to share a little bit of a knowledge that I picked up from behind the bar. Some of it's extremely bar forward. A lot of it's just kind of giving you foundations or my ideology, philosophy behind mixing cocktails. And in between, we'll have Chef, kind of since we are paying a little bit of homage to the peach. We did it with our peach cobbler. We're going to do a peach cocktail. And in between the cocktails, we are going to have Chef Bernard kind of pop in and show a little peach salad that you could make at home, entertain guests, or for dinner, or something that would pair well with a peach cocktail. Again, we're focusing on peaches, mostly because they're in season right now from, I believe, June 20th to about mid-September. So that's the reasoning behind this. So let's just get started with some quick snippets of things. Bar tools. Although you might not need this type of intricate setup in your house, there's no reason not to have it. It's a good little toolbox to carry with you. There's a couple different philosophies on mixing tins. I've also seen a lot of people behind a lot of bars. This actually has gone on a lot of styles since, I believe, like later 90s, early 2000s, which is a little tiny guy, which they make him in this size too as well, which is a mixer with a lid and a strainer attached to it. These could be fine and work if your bar is set up completely to run with these, meaning that you'll have a lot of several tops, a lot of bottoms, kind of everything gets scattered everywhere. This is, I think, why it kind of just became unpopular behind the bar, because it's just too much material for using the same thing, and it's not as easy to clean. A lot of things get stuck in the little tiny holes, the strainers. It's just, again, for me, there's people that have been bartending a lot longer than I have. They this is their preferred tool of choice. But I personally like a Boston shaker and just a regular tin. Cool thing about the Boston shaker, nobody know we use them for beers now, but these were not made for beers. These were made exactly for what we're using them here today, which is to use them in a Boston shaker. This should get a nice little grip, comes out, doesn't get stuck too much. And it's just, as far as me mechanically behind the bar, I can stack them up, only have two towers of things, and you can kind of put them away. It doesn't get as mixed up as the other tins and strainers, as the other tins. Another thing that we should always have in the house behind the bar is a muddler. If you're getting into some sort of craft mixology and this is kind of a route you want to go as you mix your drinks, have one of these. Another quick substitute that works, it doesn't work for every single preparation, but you can also throw stuff in the blender. I do that quite a bit, actually, to flavor drinks at home. I'll just throw watermelon, blend it up to a juice, use that as my flavor base. Another thing, this always makes cocktails just a little bit sexier because it's a mesh strainer. This just kind of cleans up any unwanted debris from any of your muddlings or any of your mixing. Although a lot of the times I prefer to leave certain items in there. Like with the peaches, I will not be double straining the peach. I have no problem with what we're gonna get in the residue on our peach drink. So no need for double strainer. This is everything. I usually behind the bar, I have a little box, always just full of these and towers of these, because that's the only way you're gonna move fast in an actual busy bar and move covers. You gotta have the correct tools for the job, and that's why I kind of figured out that these are the best tools, in my opinion, to have behind a fast bar. Another thing that's a little cool thing of information, pour spouts. So you'll see these, you see them in olive oil. If you go behind a preferably set up bar, you'll see most of the bottles in what we call the speed rack have all these pour spouts. Meaning it's called the speed rack, and you have the pour spouts because, again, it's all centered on speed and motion and trying to get stuff out correctly and portioned correctly. So the trick behind these, just to give an example, if you ever go to a club or dive bar or wherever, and you ask for a Jack and Coke, and immediately you see bartender pull Jack Daniel's bottle, start pouring, start dropping the Coke, and it's done. There's a reason for that. He's not just kind of guesstimating what he's doing. These pour 1/4 of an ounce per second. So a pour spout will always pour 1/4 of an ounce per second of alcohol. And if you have a bar gun, or what is called like a juice container, when you see the white juice containers with the little colored tops, all of those will pour out a half an ounce per second. So you got a quarter of an ounce and a half an ounce. So by the time you pour both things together, you're going to get the perfect mixture in your cocktails. So this is one way to kind of keep controls. It helps you with the controls of like how much liquid you're pouring, because I've worked with bartenders that, you know, they don't use them. They don't use any method. They just kind of open the bottle and pour it out. It's like, there's no way in the human eye can ever calculate liquid as it's falling down a random spout. There's no way to do that. So it has to have a way to measure it. And then the measurements is not only so much, yes, they're a big part of control when you're running a bar operation, being, hey, we have to make sure we know what we're using and that we're getting what we're supposed to get and the customer's getting what they paid for. But the other one is drink consistency. And this is just more important when you get into the mixology part of it, because consistency is everything. When you make one cocktail once, it should taste the same the second time. Maybe not so much of a burden in somebody's house, but when you come to a place of business, it is very important that when you come to our bar and have a Watson-tini on Tuesday, it's gonna taste the same on Friday, and it's gonna taste the same a month from now if it's still on the list. And everybody should, it should just be a rule of thumb. Again, people do like certain things, and as a bartender, I always picked up on those nuances from my customers. I knew, even though they still kept ordering sweet drinks, I know they didn't like them sweet. So, you know, it's not throwing more alcohol in there, but it's just kind of measuring the level of sweetness you're throwing. So if the recipe calls for an ounce, throw a half an ounce or 1/4. And when you deal with enough regulars like that, you kind of get very used to their palates and tastes. So even when you're mixing something, I start thinking, oh my God, John's gonna love this drink. This is kind of right up his alley. Another thing that I always like, curious thing about bartending is the trends, man. Trends always go and come, and you always see them and around. It's so funny. Sometimes we always think of like time in a linear way to where everything just happens, you know, as a separate event from the other one. But what it really happens is just like with clothes, movies, music, alcohol, and food, everything's always in a circle. So you'll always see stuff come back to you in maybe a little modified way, but the trends are still there. Big thing that we can say, so we can get into the families of alcohol. So the family of cocktails, they'll all break into like 3 separate bases, and they can all kind of fall into that category regardless of little minor nuances or differences. So you're gonna have your ancestral cocktails, which is usually just a spirit with a base sweetener, either simple syrup or a bitter thrown in there. Biggest example of that would be the first ever recorded cocktail, which is an old fashioned, which that would be just your bourbon, simple syrup, and a couple of dashes of bitters. And if you're not doing simple syrup, you know, actually the traditional way is a big sugar cube. You throw the bitters into the sugar cube, throw a couple of drops of water and mix it together, and that's how you make your simple syrup. So you kind of make the process on the glass. So that's ancestrals. What we know the most and what we all kind of drink, and this is the most popular kind of subsection of cocktails, is your sours. So your sours would be all your daiquiris, all your margaritas, all your pina coladas, everything that usually has some sort of big acid forwardness to them. And they would also have, you know, the sweetness. And in a lot of those cases, the alcohol gets somewhat masked. And those were, again, extremely popular in the 80s. That was kind of like the thing. And it's funny because a couple of summers ago, when I was working in one of the hotel pools, they were coming back. Like everybody was asking me for all these really classical drinks. You know, I was getting rummers all the time, pina coladas. So you do see the trends. The one that I never saw coming was the mezcal trend. So I know tequilas got big, but if you're ever into mezcals, I probably will end up doing like a little separate class and just mezcals themselves, because it's a very interesting spirit on there. So we covered our tools. Oh, as far as the measurement, I have a little shot glass here. It has a little ounce pour. And again, we talked about the importance of measuring. So as if you have your kits at home, just have to find something to measure on there. A little surprise too, if you picked up your kits, I believe we did have a couple that went away. For the Watson-tini, we threw a little extra on there. So you have enough to make 2 batches of that one. So we're gonna start with that one. So that one's a sour. Oh, almost forgot. We didn't touch on the third family of cocktails, which is spirit forward, which that's basically would be your ancestrals with some sort of liqueur added to it. So a perfect example of that is your Manhattans or your Negronis, because you got your spirit, you got your sweetener, you got your bitters, and then after that, you're gonna get your liqueur. Another one of my philosophies too, when you're mixing and you're having, you have a cocktail that requires a liqueur, it's best not to cheap out on it, especially if it's going on a spirit forward cocktail. If it's going into a sour, yeah, triple sec of any brand wouldn't matter. But if you're doing some sort of like, say, a Grand Marnier martini, you really would want to use a high quality orange liqueur like Grand Marnier. Point being is, with the liqueurs as opposed to with alcohol, when let's say you grab your bourbon and you're mashing it and you got your 51% corn on there, right? So the corn itself, the quality, of course, it does matter, but it doesn't matter to a certain extent because you're getting out the essence of the corn. So you're using a part of the corn, and that's going into fermentation and this other chemical process that you're not going to, the raw material is not going to be as forefront and aware. But with liqueurs, it's a lot less liquor content. That means there's going to be a lot more sugar content. So that means a lot of less fermentation is going to take place. So in those cases, it doesn't really matter what kind of raw product goes into those liqueurs. So if you're doing spirit-forward cocktails, don't cheap out on liqueurs. Another thing about mixing, if you just want to start mixing and start trying new ideas, new flavors, new everything, I say vodka is your best spirit and your best friend always, because vodka does not bring very many flavors to the game. It's very neutral. It kind of lets you manipulate it in whichever way you want. You can do really anything with vodka. I've infused so many things into vodka. Weirdest thing I think we've done, we did a cactus, cilantro, and jalapeno infusion on a vodka, which was fairly interesting. And again, people loved it. I personally wasn't too keen when it came out because the cactus just kind of changed the texture of the actual liquid, made it a little bit like kind of gummy, but the flavor of it was kind of fantastic. And whenever we did our infusions, we would just make batches. Once they're sold out, and that's it. And I sold out of that batch, which was made to last a month, sold out about in a week and a half. So that was a pretty good endeavor. So with all that, just don't be afraid to fail when you start mixing. Like in life, the more you fail, the more stuff you learn, the bigger things you discover. Like I always like to say, all the great men in history and women that kind of broken frontiers at one point, when they brought up their theory or ideology, they were kind of, not looked upon very, I don't even know what word I want to use. They were kind of just put down because they were going against the norm. So going against the norm is not always the worst thing, especially when great things come out of it. So, with cocktails, always try. It's fun anyways. And, fail, but fail forward, kind of keep notes. That's kind of how I've built most of my cocktail list throughout the years. Not everything's gold, but as you keep going and experiment, you'll find that you'll come up with some nice little drinks there. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to do our Watson-tini. The Watson-tini, this drink, it is not peach, nothing to do with the homage to peach, but this is just kind of near and dear to my heart as far as this was one of the first drinks I brought into Marriott hotels, and it got picked up by other Marriott hotels in the area. Then as I kind of moved around, brought it over. So this drink ended up, to my last count, was I believe like either 5 or 6 hotels carried it. Only like 2 of them changed the name. It stayed as a Watson-tini because main point of focus is your Watsonville strawberries. Other thing you're going to throw in there is going to be your cucumbers. And for this drink, if you picked up your kits, you do have enough for 2. So when you mix them twice or mix the amounts all together. All right, with this one, first thing we're going to do is want to throw our glass in there. We want to throw about a good handful of the strawberries, which is like about 2 fingers out, which is 2 ounces. And about 6 rounds of the cucumber, or 3 rounds of the cucumber, I might say. And we're using a brown sugar simple syrup, which for simple syrups, this is another little cool trick to always bring flavor to the game. All you would have to do is 1 of each, so 1-to-1 ratio. 1 cup of sugar, 1 cup of water. But when I say you can bring a lot of flavors to the game, for this particular drink, one of the bartenders that brought it, he modified it as far as he made the simple instead of doing the muddling. So he went, to the bar, he grabbed cucumbers, he grabbed strawberries, he put them in a container, just let it sit with water for about, I think he said about 3 or 4 days, just trying to shake it at least once a day. So just grab it, give it a spin, kind of get the oxygen going in there. And after that, you just drain it, keep the water, and you will make that water to make your simple syrup. And that should definitely bring some flavors onto the game. Myself, I prefer the muddling method for some cocktails. For some, the simple syrup does work best. But for me, just for the cucumber and strawberry in this combination, I feel with the simple syrup, it was just way, way too subtle. Because of course, once he told me we did it, I had to go to the hotel and I went and had one. So like, I got to compare it, you know. He knew I was there too. He came out. I was like, well, what do you think? He's like, well, you know, it's nice, but it's not the original. We have a question out here? No, we're good? Ah, sorry about that. All right, so we got our cucumber, our strawberry in there, and we're gonna throw an ounce of the simple. So if you had a pour spot, that would be about a 4 count, but I'm just gonna look at my 1 and throw it all in there. No vodka in there at the moment. For this, you wanna get a good muddle. So where's the camera? So you do wanna try and break the cucumber more than the strawberry. The strawberry, once we start shaking the cocktail, should kind of take care of itself. In a way. There we go. So you see the liquid already start to turn. Nice strawberry color. You see the cucumber going on there. All right, somebody asked how you make the brown sugar simple syrup at home. We'll stop this real quick. We haven't gone very far. I will go through the steps again. So to make this little contraption, it's a 1-to-1 ratio. So 1 cup of brown sugar, put it in a container and stir until the granulates go away. With brown sugar, you do have the possibility that some of it will get crystallized. So you'll see like little chunks in the bottom just kind of form, little nuggets at the very bottom. So in order to avoid that, what you want to do, have the sugar, put the water. As soon as you put the water, just, I mean, not ferociously or violently in any way, just keep stirring it. Keep stirring, just a solid motion until it all kind of goes away, and you'll be left with this kind of brownish amber, almost bourbonish looking syrup right here. And that ratio works with any real simple syrup that you're making. Actually, even with one of the really cool things to do, we did a buttered rum and honey drink. One of the things that we did as we made a honey simple syrup, and that was really just same thing. Cup. Actually, we did quarter of a less on the water because honey does itself contain some water. So we did, you know, a cup of honey to 3/4 of a cup water, spin that around same way, and then you can use it. Because with honey, if you start mixing with honey, you have to be very careful that none of your ice hits it before you mix it with the spirit, because if not, again, the coldness will start crystallizing it and you'll just be left with a lot of strings of honey and it's not gonna go anywhere. But as far as for the brown sugar, again, 1-to-1 ratio. So 1 cup of brown sugar, 1 cup of water, put in a container, slowly mix until the granulates are gone. I will back to the cocktail. So we had just 2 fingers of strawberries, about 2 ounces, 3 rounds of cucumber, and we put our 1 ounce of brown sugar simple syrup. So that's pretty much mixed. Then for the vodka, I'm gonna go ahead and count. Why not? Sounds like fun. We're gonna do a 6 count, and that should give us, yeah, that should give us 1 3/4. There we go. 6 counts, that should be it. Another cool little snippet behind the bar if you ever wanna look cool when you're pouring spirits. When you're done, the little kind of terminology that we use, you turn the key. So as you're pouring, it's going to be coming out, you turn the key, and that should immediately stop it. So it's not kind of spilling everywhere, spilling on the bottom of the bar or anything like that. Another little cool thing, I guess as we have some time, I can show you right now. Why not? It's a little bounce pour. See, I haven't done this in a while. I haven't bartended in a minute, but basic motion behind this is that as you have several drinks lined up, you want to be able to move from one to the other rapidly without having to turn the key. So when you do that, you go 1, 2, bounce it. That stops it for just a second. Bounce, and you can turn the key. So it's just, that's all it is. It's just a quick bounce, get some air into the spout, and then should give you a little second to pour to the next one. That's a little tiny technique. So back to the drink. So let's beat it down. So we did our strawberries, we got our cucumber, we got our simple syrup in there. and we did our 1 3/4 ounce of vodka. That is what we need. Oh, no, it's not, because we need, other thing you need is lemon juice. Fresh squeezed lemon juice. I always tell people there is no such thing as mixology if you're not juicing yourself. If you're buying juices from outside, then yeah, you're bartending, but that ain't mixology. Mixology is always the mentality of freshness forward and as raw product as you can. All right. So we'll do our ounce lemon juice right there. Make sure you get the cup full with ice. Another big thing is important, make sure you get plenty of ice because a cocktail is always about 1 to 2/3 parts just water. So if you're just mixing it with no ice, you're not gonna get anything. When I like to mix, give it some muscle, have some fun, and make sure as you're mixing, you got your hand on your chin. You'll feel it getting cold. You even kind of hear the ice breaking down. See, they already kind of changed. You see the condensation on there. Pretty good. Gonna get every little single drop, why not? People are paying for it. Now this I will double mesh strain because there is the combination of the two items. So you got the cucumber and the strawberries, and it does kind of muddle it up. So we'll take a little bit to pour. This doesn't necessarily need to be a martini. It is a sour, so it's not like a traditional martini to where, you know, I mean, you can have that on the rocks as well. But this is a sour cocktail. So by all means, you may have this on the rocks. It is fantastic. See, I'm left with, still got some cocktail on there, and then mostly this residue impeding the pour. So throw that in there. I'm gonna wash that for later. All right, go ahead. Got a little cucumber wheel, and you should have enough to make 2 of these and enjoy those. All right. Any questions at this preparation at the moment? Nothing for right now. All right, again, recommended on the rocks. If let's say you wanted to make any of these cocktails into a big batch, I would never sit there and mix, you know, a whole gallon of these, like 3 ounces at a time. Smartest thing to do is do the math, see how many you're gonna make. And remember, since you're turning about 2/3 water in there, I would just make the mixture, you know, make it in the vat and then add the extra water and put it in the refrigerator. And that should yield you the same result. Because ultimately, this is what we're doing when we're shaking. We are diluting the mixture and adding water to it. Chef, all right, for the moment, we're gonna take a quick snippet on the cocktails. Chef is gonna go ahead and segue us into the peach portion of the program. He's gonna just allow us with a small little peach salad that we can make for our guests. I'm gonna set this on the side. Give me a second.
Jorge, aren't you gonna taste it? Aren't you gonna taste it?
I will taste it.
You want to taste it? Oh my God.
Well, if there are 2, then Bernard should do 1. He should taste the other.
Oh, yeah, see, that's really good.
Here we go. I don't mind. I don't mind.
It's funny because, yeah, it's so great. You get, like, the first thing you get is a cucumber. And after that, it'll fade into sweetness of strawberries. So I think that is just an awesome little mix right there.
Bonsoir, votre chef Bernard, encore une fois. Well, after your little cocktail, I'm going to make you a little salad. We choose the arugula, but if you don't like, I know some of you don't like the arugula, remember. So you can use any kind. You can use butter lettuce. You can use endive. Endive is beautiful with that too, okay? So I got everything clean already. The little arugula in there. Then I peeled the peach a little bit early. You slice very thin. So you put in there, you know, a little, depending on how much you want. okay? And I got prosciutto that I chopped very tiny, so you don't have to feel a, okay, I'm gonna use that too in there. Same thing, you can put as much as you want. And I had the little goat cheese too. I think this, here we go. Same thing, as much as you want. And then add some candied walnuts too. And same thing, if you don't like the walnuts, you don't have to use it, but it's really make the salad taste good. I'm gonna use a little salt, not too much because the prosciutto, like you know, is a little bit salty. A little ground pepper from the mill, from the Metropolitan Club. Can you see? A little bit like that. Same thing, as much as you want. And for dressing, I'm not gonna make any special dressing. I'm just gonna use olive oil, like that, and the dark balsamic vinegar. That's it. Then you mix the way you like. See, they look good, they look very fresh. Then you can use a nice, not the bottle, you can use a nice plate, like the plate that we have at the club. See, I'm gonna, see. See, there we go. Just like that. Then if you like, you still can add a little bit walnuts on the top. And that's it. Bon appétit. I give you back, Jorge. Thank you. Merci. À bientôt.
Thank you, chef. I will definitely have that later. Taste it. All right, so we'll get into our next cocktail, which this is the Kentucky Peach. A little bit different. Actually, before I begin, I just have to do a little maintenance work. I get my tin ready for my next drink. But as we discussed before, that cocktail right there, that's a sour. It is sweet, it is forward. You can put that on a juice box. Our next cocktail, you cannot put in a juice box. It's actually more of a sipping cocktail. You will definitely taste the bourbon as you go through it. It's not something that you're not gonna hide it, you're not gonna mask it. We're just adding and enhancing to it. So that's why I picked Eagle Rare. This is a nice bourbon. You'll get a lot of sweet maltiness from it and almost like a back chocolate tone to it. Another one that I can kind of hold comparable to Eagle Rare that has a lot of the same notes would be Evan Williams. Another one that I like to mix with because it's fairly noble is Maker's Mark. Ones that I just really do not like to bring into the game, but these are very, very popular brands would be Jack Daniels. That's like a Tennessee whiskey. And it goes through like a charcoal process and it definitely leaves like this weird aftertaste that I'm just not, keen of. A lot of people do like it. So again, everything's about what you like. There is no rights and wrongs. All right, so the Kentucky Peach. This would be an ancestral cocktail. So as we are adding a little outside element, which is the peach, which should have a little bit of acidity, it is still not considered a sour because it should not be a sour cocktail. Actually, I got a little bit too much peach on there. There we go. So again, with the strawberries, about 2 fingers up. So a little tiny handful, get a little clamp, throw it, and that's kind of your portion control on the peach. And this one's fairly simple. All we're gonna do is grab the peaches, same thing, about 1 ounce of the brown sugar simple. We use the brown sugar simple on that Watson-tini more for practicality. You can use any simple syrup, but since we were using this for the bourbon, which I enjoy the brown simple syrup with bourbon drinks, That's what we use today. So with this one, yeah, same kind of basic thing. We're gonna muddle the peaches. We're trying to get as much of the flavor as you can out of that, because that's gonna be your flavoring agent, along with the brown sugar. And then we're gonna throw some mint in there, and I'm gonna talk to you about my philosophy about mint, which in no way I believe it should be harshly ever muddled in a mojito. Like, you should never have the mint sit in the bottom as you force yourself into it, because then it becomes bitter. What you're trying to do is release oils from it. Just trying to get my next garnish one. We'll use that guy. So best way to release the oils from it, don't muddle it at all. Give it a quick squeeze, or like we call it, give it a slap. You can smell it just coming out. Throw it on there. I'm gonna grab our bourbon. Hey, that slipped. There we go. And 2 ounces of this guy. Bourbon, if you go to a bar and they have a nice bourbon with a pour spout, that's not a good thing. Bourbon should always be corked. The only thing that I put a pour spout on a bourbon is something on my speedwheel, like Jim Beam or Jack Daniels, that I know is not gonna get too messed up by oxygenation, but bourbon itself, whiskey browns, you wanna keep them corked behind the bar. Same thing. Want to get it's full right there. Oh, shit. Where's our glass? Now, see if my skills are correct. Mine not. If I did it right, this should be a perfect pour all the way to the top. Shake, shake, shake. See? Nice condensation. You know your mix is cold. You know you got the water out of it. It's never a good thing to use the same cracked ice into your actual mixed drink. With that one, you know what? I'm gonna not lie and say that's more of something that I got told, and I've never really looked deeply into why, or if it's really holds any ground. But I've been doing it for so long, that's just kind of the way that I presented that. So this one, again, you'll see little tiny bits of the peach. So, yep, I can still be hired. There we go. Believe I was not prepared. I'm just gonna cut a little slit on the peach. Put it on top. Put it right there. And that's a Kentucky peach. And Deborah, I will taste this one. You don't have to tell me this time. We'll go straight for it. Again, not this, not in a juice box. You'll taste the bourbon. It's definitely there. You taste the peach. You taste the simple syrup. Only other thing that I would say you could do to this cocktail, if you want to make it sweeter, don't add more sugar. I would add either a ginger beer or a Sprite or something fizzy on top. Even club soda would do it. Because main mentality, if you ever want to cut alcohol taste out of something, water would probably do it. Sugar is just gonna mess with the balance of things. So again, if you want to make it a little bit sweeter, some fizzy club soda would be fine on there. Well, I do believe it's what I have at the moment. Hey, does anybody have any questions for me at this time? And before I forget, please let us know if there's either a specific spirit, a specific line of cocktails that you would want to learn about to kind of keep us going. Please let me know. And we'll go ahead and make those for you. So there you go. We got a little Kentucky peach. That will definitely go very well with our salad.
Salud.
Salud.